What up, YouTube? It's your boy Zulu Go. Like, share, subscribe, comment. Good Sunday morning to you. I shut down yesterday, man. I had to catch up on some rest on a Saturday. Go figure. But yeah, that's how hard I've been going. I shut down on a Saturday. I'm talking about I shut the whole day down. But I'm up early. After this stream, I'm gonna go to the gym. I'm probably do another stream shortly after. I may have to adjust the time on it coming up, but I'm gonna do another one when I get back from the gym and get myself ready for the day. It's gonna be daddy daughter day today. I've done a stream on this topic before, but I'm doing it again. And I'm telling you, like, for some reason my reality is I can't watch hypocrisy and I can't watch um something that is useless, something that has become a joke. And many times before, I tell y'all I hate circle jerking. I hate roundabout discussions. um I want to hear real answers, real solutions. I want to see real effort. So, just as much as I'm tired of hearing about dating and friendship, the hypocrisy, the calamity, the dangers and the risks, the foolishness involved with those things, how they've been inaccurate, incorrect, bad practices, um, very damaging and destructive toward men. I'm tired of the same for marriage and by little, because it's mentioned very little, widows. I've had experience with widows. I get into that. I'm just gonna hit on marriage doesn't vindicate women. Um, when you hear all these conversations about dating, friendship, the gender war, what's going on between men and women, having the conversation, and marriage keeps getting brought up, it's like you that's a whole that takes the subject into an extension, because you have to then go into talking about the current state of marriage and looking at the pros and cons of it, uh, as well as just giving a whole nother curriculum on. Since I brought up marriage, now I have to tell this whole extra subject matter, getting into what marriage needs to be, what it's supposed to be, how to go about it. It's more than just simply mentioning it and just leaving it very open. Like the way guys use it now, giving these SBE, shame, blame, and explanation discussions to women, and they keep saying, "Well, you missed out on your husband, or you could be married, this and that." It's more to it than that. You can't just mention marriage to women anymore, especially. You can't mention marriage to the uninformed man who thinks of marriage as what he has been taught in school, on TV. You know, the standard way of marriage is what I call it. Um, the correct marriage, the correct teachings therefrom, come from people who have been married for so long they're going to die together. Um, my mother was a widow. I take that back. My mother's first husband died, but they were together for so long they had acquired 10 kids. I believe I am not sure exactly when her first husband died, but my mother was married from age 14 all the way up until I know her late 30s or 40s. She had me at 45 years old when she met her second husband, my father. So I was born late. My second experience with a widow was my auntie. Her husband died in the mid 80s, and I never seen this woman with another man, literally. Now, this is no cap. That doesn't say that she probably had a suitor or some guy somewhere, but I never seen a man come to her house, stay the night. I've always seen men from church or something come over to the house and sit at the table. And we were there present when they would come. They would never be there overnight or when we weren't there. I have never seen this woman not go anywhere without family members or my other aunt and church members, anywhere that wasn't church oriented, something like that, even if she was gone overnight. So I've never seen her literally isolated one on one with some type of attraction or mimicking a relationship with a man since her first husband died. Now, my mother got married 3 times. Her first marriage was her longest marriage, most fulfilling marriage. Her second marriage, I came about. Her third marriage, um, she died within that marriage. Now, does that validate or vindicate my mom? To an extent, no. But one thing about it, she believed in you were going to marry her if you dealt with her. If you couldn't marry her, you have to leave. I did see, I did see my mom get rid of one man who wasn't willing to marry her. So she had standards. Um, my mom wasn't perfect. Um, I'm not gonna sit here and act like that I knew everything my mom did. She was grown. Of course, anybody grown, they're gonna do what they want, and you're not gonna see everything that they do. Especially you as a kid looking at the outside world growing up, not understanding the world at the time. But I do know that she had a goal to get married. Um, and my father had issues. My father was a Vietnam vet. He was a war veteran, so he had issues. So the reason why that marriage ended was because of him, not her. I know that for a fact. And I love my daddy to death. My dad is number one. I had to help my father growing up with his issues. So I give them both of them their due credit. Um, just a little background. And most of the women in my family on both sides are married, have been married uh, since they got married. My sister died married. One of my sisters died married. My other sister is currently married to her first husband. I got another sister currently married to her first husband. They've been married since the 90s and 80s. Uh, my mom, sister, both they're widows. They've only had one man their whole, well, I don't say their whole life, but I mean one husband. And that's since 70s, 80s, maybe 60s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. Because I got a couple aunties that they're in their 80s, touching on 90 years old. So my mom will be in her 80s. The first widow I told you about on my dad's side, my dad's sister, well, her husband died in the mid 80s. She died at 82, 83 herself. I've only had one auntie on my dad's side that wasn't married. All my uncles and aunts and my dad had been married. I had one aunt that wasn't married. Let's see here. Only one of my sisters isn't married. She had been married before, and she hasn't been married since her first husband. Uh, and she married the man that she only had kids with. And then from there, she was just, uh, I've only seen her with maybe two men after her first marriage. That was it. Doesn't mean that I know many more about her. I just know that there was only two other men after her first marriage that I've seen. She did do long term relationships. She didn't, and she retired as a homeowner. She retired, and she retired from working through the school system. So her life was pretty structured. She just didn't find the next husband after her first husband. And then I got another sister that's married. She's been married since the 90s. Um, she had two kids prior to her marriage. Those kids are grown now. Both of those kids are married, and she has another son in her new marriage. So I've seen marriage on both sides of my family, long term, long lasting, and I've seen widows. I've seen the widow aspect done in a way where, or after a first failed marriage, I've seen men be kept to a minimum. Let's just put it that way. I have not seen women in my family on both sides, as far as the older generation women that raised me. And this is why I am the way I am, and this is why I have issues with modern women and being in the generation that I'm in and the generations that come after me. I have been able to be raised and see things a certain way that works. And it requires a certain discipline, a certain way you carry yourself. Now, I'm going to tell y'all something about me. And this is going to be the truth. When I'm in a relationship, I provide peace, loyalty, and I immediately have a discipline factor that does not put the other person in a position of vulnerability, embarrassment, at a disadvantage. I want you to be comfortable. Have I made mistakes in the past in relationships? Yes, I did. I did that in my early 20s. I think I done it once in my 30s, and I learned my lesson. But even in my 20s, um, I was using a skill set that was unmatched to people uh, compared to people in my same age group. Um, I had an older cousin telling me how I used to treat one of my older girlfriends in my 20s like she was my wife when we weren't even married, and she was just like the way you do things. You when you come up under old generation folks like that, you develop a skill set that's very household oriented. Um, that's why household skills are very important to me. Household management skills, and then from what I described to y'all is with the men being kept to a minimum by the women in my family on both sides, as far as the older women. Can't say that I'm gonna say it. I can't say that much for the younger women because I have younger female cousins who grew up under these same people that they just do things different. They're modern, um, very modern. Some of them got married. Most of them didn't. Most of them have kids out of wedlock. Um, so I'm really talking about the ones that raised me. And I wind up out of all my cousins and the kids in my generation that I grew up with, I wind up acquiring most of the skill sets. And it has been said, it has been stated to me that like you turned out to be one of the best out of all of them. And I'm not bragging or nothing like that, but I'm just telling you because I paid attention. I actually was like one of those ones that was zeroing in on the habits of everybody around me. This is how it was. But getting back to about me, right? As far as how I go about relationships, the discipline factor and how I do things with structure and I'm consistent and I'm reliable, I've been called a robot. So ladies think that I tend to be boring or a robot or that I'm not living life. But then, the trade off is I can be as traditional as I need to be as much as you earn. And then the consistency, the reliability, um, hands down doesn't compare. I've had women intimidated by the fact that bills stay paid, I make good money, I dress nice, I'm handsome, I'm in shape, my house is clean, my car is clean. I had a woman tell me she wouldn't be able to clean the way I clean. I had one woman get in my car and jump up in her seat because my car was so clean. I was asked, do I clean my car every day? Um, when a woman finds out, oh, he goes to work, goes to the gym, and go home, he's not out. He's not out in the street. He's not out in the nightlife. And then they look at you and they see that you're handsome and you're capable to attract women. And it's just like you don't exploit it. See, I don't exploit it. Have I mingled as a single man and went out and just had to do what I do? Yeah, I have my time periods where I'm like, man, I'm finna go out. I've been in the house too much. I've been working too much. I'm single. I need the company of a woman. So I go out and I get that. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that I'm some type of monk or some priest or shit like that. That's not what that's about. I just know how to turn it off. But when I come across these women who have been married, divorced, or widows, and I see how they move like modern women after the fact, that's on top of us knowing the current state of marriage. The marriage rate has declined, divorce rate is high, women are filing for divorce more than men. We know about the marriage laws, how it affects the man or the breadwinner, whoever's the breadwinner, regardless of gender. You hear these women get back into the market, and it just you look at them like you have no right to talk. I've literally had women tell me, "I wish I would never divorced my husband for cheating." I was like, "Well, it's mathematical. Like you had kids with this man, and then now you're trying to date again with another man's kids, and then the cheating itself, you know, nobody wants to be cheated on, and I know it hurts, but sometimes you got to weigh the options. Like I've been married for so long, I got kids, I have a life structured around this. Um, you're gonna have to go back and have a discussion. I told her to go back and have a discussion. Well, I told her she should have because it was already too late. I'm sorry. Let me correct myself. I told her she should have had a discussion to where she should have been like, look, you need to do that in private. You need to not be seen. We live in this place. People know us. We've been married for years. You need to do that in private. You need not be seen. It goes back into your relationships and your household in general need to stay private regardless. And you just need to tell them, I told you, you should have told them we've been married, we got family, we got kids. I'm not going to split my household and my marriage up, and I'm going to continue to have help with these kids up until they at least get grown, or we can end the marriage when everything's all said and done, and we can go our separate ways for sure. And she's like, I wished I would have had done that. You know, um, doesn't excuse cheating, and nobody should be cheating on anybody, man or woman. But it is very important to keep them households together. You just have to go back and really discuss what needs to be done, how y'all gonna go about it. But I dated a widow. I was in a relationship with a widow, and she just her perception of relationships and marriage, other than her own, like she really valued her first marriage. Um, I will give her credit; she valued it the way it was supposed to be valued. But then, she contradicted herself and was hypocritical a lot based upon how she moved in the outside world after her first marriage and her discussions about relationship and marriage, what she had with people. She would come to me and tell me about uh coworkers, how, this female coworker um is going to divorce her husband, and she would talk to me like it was nothing. It was just like, she was taking the female side of things and stuff like that. Um, and I would be like, well, did you hear the husband's story? Do you know this is a fact? Do they got kids? Do you think that's a good idea? You know, womanism, man, sisterhood, womanism, affects them all, no matter what. She would also tell me about the male co-workers who've been divorced twice. You know, like for someone to hold her own first marriage in high regard and then just to simply just generalize marriage and divorce in conversations and definitely being one-sided, more favorable and favorable toward women and biased toward men, was weird. The male co-worker, I guess she's seen it as like men just have to accept, you know, the marriage and divorce process as is or something like that. So when she brought the conversation to me, of course, she was like, things with you are a debate. I'm like, no, I just don't want to hear conversations that seem to be biased or one-sided, or that could possibly be a mistake. And then you're having these conversations with these people and you're just either listening or accepting it, and you're not being a real person or a real coworker or a real friend. And there's something you have to put real on all that by giving them the proper response and feedback. You could possibly be listening to something, and if you don't say the correct thing, you may allow somebody to make a mistake. Like you possibly could be saving that female's marriage if you listen a little bit more closely and not be so quick to just be like, this is my coworker, I know her, and kind of step outside of that and be like, that's a marriage, that's a family, that's a household. You need to look at your coworker's chances of rebounding or what she needs to do. If she decides to divorce, would she have success in getting another man, or establishing another fulfilling relationship? They don't look at all that. They just be talking. You know what I'm saying? See, and I be thinking about all this stuff. The male coworker, this was the weirdest story, right? The male coworker, she told me, had got divorced twice, and his second wife had remarried, and his second wife was divorcing the second husband, and he has maintained friendship with both wives. And then the second wife was talking to him about coming back to him with some type of partnership after she divorces the second husband because the second husband retired. He was at home all the time, and he got fat and out of shape and wasn't doing nothing. And I took that whole when she told me that I was like, look, first of all, your coworker is stupid. She's like, what do you mean? I'm not being friends with nobody that I divorced. And he sound like he a simp. He sound like he's one of these typical men that has been formed in America to where it's just like they just take abuse and let people use them. And I'm like, definitely on this last situation, why would I let my second wife come back to me because she's tired of her second husband? And it made me like, okay, I'm like, okay, why do I keep getting women who I have to teach common sense to, common decency to? And like, why do I have to go over the conversations that they bring to me and analyze it and break it down? And then they get upset because they can't take conversation as is. And like, I'm like, it's more than just talking. You have to take in the right information. You have to filter information. And she would it would be the same way she would mention marriage and divorce. Just, oh yeah, so and so's getting married. Oh, this is divorce. That it got to the point to where I'm like, you need to be careful because your outlook on marriage and divorce is going to be real numb, and it's a real serious issue. Other than your first marriage where your husband died, and he died on you in a short period of time, um, for some reason you can't transfer the importance of your first marriage into hearing other people's marriage and divorce issues and it giving you a more approach of not just taking what they say as general, but at least state the importance of something and telling people to be sure about things where they make the right decisions. Of course, I was called a debater, but oh well. Um, and she went into herself when we broke up. She went into the dating and friendship practices that I talk about. So she was one of the few widows that I know that isn't the typical widow you just don't study or you just generalize and say they're a special case. No, that's on top of whores can get married. And women getting married doesn't mean unless they're a virgin, they have a history in the past before they get married. And sometimes that history and past, that imprint can catch up with them and it can ruin their marriage. In marriage, the concept of marriage, I think the biggest thing about marriage is the discipline, the seriousness, and the spirituality involved in marriage isn't there anymore at all. And it just is what it is in this country. I'm primarily talking about this country. It is. It's not there anymore. Most people in this country get married by practicing the dating and friendship game, which is poly by default, which is in favor to women having many options with men and then selecting you probably based on superficial reasons. You thinking she loves you. She's picked you because of you checked off a lot of economic benefits more so than anything. If they don't get married young, if y'all don't get married when y'all broke and you know at a level where you're working your way up. Most of the time, later in life, after college, when you get to career and stuff like that, a woman has played the field better than you have. She has many guys available to her. She has had her sexual freedom. Part of the modern woman's curriculum is experimentation and exploring. So that's the key thing you guys need to understand. So you're not getting nothing special when you marry a woman these days. If you're not marrying a virgin, you're not marrying young, you're not marrying when y'all both are at a level where y'all working your way up. Um, Marriage, as far as women learn it, is more business like. They know the laws better than men. They know their power within it better than you do. They've studied it longer than you. So you're at a disadvantage with that also. And guys be having these conversations where you could have been married and that was your husband. Like these guys need to stop because the I've been told y'all if they're not emphasizing the correct way to get married from a male standpoint or a breadwinner standpoint through contracting, through understanding the marriage laws and how to avoid it and making your own private marriage agreements, um, I need to stop talking. And I could go on and on with this. It'll be too long. I went longer than I wanted to. I gotta hit the gym. But it's just simply put that if you're not coordinating and contracting, anything that involved at one point or at some point, front and back, dating and friendship practices with women, if your marriage resulted from that, if your relationship resulted from that, those things will end. They will not last. They will not stand the test of time. Those things are incorrect building blocks, and they will not stand the test of time. And people who have these practices instilled in them, they tend to generalize people coming and going, whether relationship or marriage. They just generalize it. And these people are numb. They have low vibrations. They have less spirit. They don't see the picture that you see. They're not like you. In YouTube, in the manosphere, dating and friendship, as related to relationships and marriage, is pointless. You have to have a special conversation to bring those things up, and you have to be very accurate in what you're saying. It's your boy Zulu. Go like, share, subscribe, comment. I'm out.